had to make you feel what I went through. I had to make, basically take you there and kind of be in your face. This is what it's like. This is the feeling of darkness. This is the feeling of hopelessness. This is the feeling of the only thing that I have to look forward to is this night or this time being over. The only future I have is living through what's going to happen to me tomorrow night. And that has a profound, effect on you. And it's life altering.
Yeah. Wow. I think the problem is there is a lot of love missing in our society. This is the society, people around us, they're missing this ingredient, I can say, love towards people, and I think that's the problem.
Oh, I agree. I agree. We've become a society that's very judgmental. If you don't look the way society thinks that you should look, if you don't dress the way society thinks you should dress, if you don't talk or act, in the manner that is, quote unquote, the norm, then you're ridiculed, you're chastised, you're made fun of. It's the same with, bullying. And the funny thing is, these are all learned behaviors. You don't come out of the womb acting this way or feeling this way. You don't come out of the womb with prejudice. All of these are behaviors that are learned, and it's a shame. You don't. There's not a quick answer. There's not a way to make this stop.
Mm-hmm. I have a small example to add to that. Actually, recently a lady from India reached out to me, and in that part of the world, most women get abused domestically, and it's an accepted trait, and women learn to live with that abuse. If they're getting abused by their spouse, it's okay, but then if they get abused by somebody else outside, then that's what they see as a crime. But getting abused at home, they don't really realize that it's, they just grow accustomed to it.
Yeah. I have seen posts of atrocities to the women over in the Middle East, and it is, I actually work with surgeons from the Middle East, and their culture and their beliefs are that women are less than men. They are, I won't say all because I hate generalizations, but I will say that in some of the older generations, women are not looked upon as being valued much beyond what they can do, for the household. And domestic violence and also sexual abuse is rampant, and their government, basically turns a blind eye. Pretty much the same as ours does, really. Crimes against children, crimes against women, sexual abuse crimes. Basically they hold a heavy penalty, but it's kind of like back in the day when women were raped and then made to be the scapegoat, or would go to trial and they were basically blamed. It's pretty much the same thing here. They deserve what happened. Their past becomes what is prevalent, what they wore. It's a cause and effect kind of thing. You caused this. It's your fault. And a lot of parents and I hate to focus on mothers, but I've received over 500 emails that I've kept. Excuse me. And when people will actually email me and tell me their stories. The first month that my book was out, I lived in a state of depression because every day I would get emails from people. Some of my daughter's friends, some people that I'd gone to high school with, people that I didn't even know. Most of the emails were actually from people I didn't know, and they would describe their situation, and then they would describe, their mother. And it was like they were describing my mother. And I honestly think that there could be a psychological profile for mothers of these child abuse victims, at least the ones that blame or have excuses or actually take the perpetrator back in because, he promises that he'll never do this again. And these people have the same traits. They're very narcissistic. They're very selfish. Their whole body, mind, soul existence is validated by the presence of a man, regardless of whether he's a pedophile or not, and regardless of whether his children are in danger or not, or her children are in danger or not. And but it's been one of the things that I've really taken into consideration while doing this and while getting reaction from my book. Not all has been positive, but the ones that have been, it's like, there's almost a thread there that is a continual thread through everybody's abuse, and that is, the characteristic traits of someone who allows this to continue to go on or knew that it was going on and did nothing to stop it. And I'm sorry, but there's enough help for people, in this society that the excuse of, I didn't know what to do, or I didn't know where to go, or I didn't know who to contact, it just doesn't fly with me anymore. There's too much information out there.
Yeah. Yeah, the most horrible thing is most of the people who actually suppress your growth and try to make you feel guilty for what you wrote are women. And from my experience, they get upset at you, they attack you. And I think the root of the problem is the gender inequality. Women are perceived like a sexual subject, and women are perceived like a weak ones, and they deserve to be treated, or they should endure some abuse like this, which is not right.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. I truly do. In fact, all of the attacks that I have experienced have been from women. Some actually from fellow authors, and I don't know if what I wrote pushed buttons. If it kind of makes you wonder if it's, what's the word I want to use? If it makes them remember, or it stirs or triggers. I have loads of warnings in my book, on my Amazon page. Actually, in my book, I have a warning that this book may trigger, and I really didn't write it for the child sexual abuse survivor. I wrote it for the ignorant, and I mean that in a very nice way. I wrote it for those people who have been blessed to have a happy home, who have been blessed to never know this type of evil, or the fact that it exists. And I wrote it for, people who are good parents, who have children that they want to protect and that they would do anything to protect. The CSA victim, they don't need to read my book to know the atrocities and the horrors and the darkness and the things that go on. They know it all too well. It's funny, I have a kind of a phrase I use by rote, because when people contact me, they usually say, "Oh my gosh, I read your story," or I read your book, and I was abused too, but it wasn't nearly as bad as what you were going through. And my immediate answer to them is no one's hell is worse than any other's, but when we're there, we endure it alone. And abuse is abuse, whether it be, sexual abuse, domestic violence, rape, verbal abuse. I mean, abuse is abuse. And while you're there and enduring it, it is, you're alone, and you have to choose your path. Do you let this ruin you, or do you rise above it? And hopefully I've done that. It dwells with me, but it doesn't rule me. It doesn't take over my life anymore.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
You mentioned, Tylor, before that you will always be damaged goods. I just want to know, what would you say to the victims out there who are trying hard to try to be normal? How did you define yours, your normal now, and what advice do you have to give them?
Basically, I have found that normal is whatever I make it. Normal is getting up every day and thanking God for every moment, not just the fact that I woke up, but for every moment. And my best advice, and I mean this with all my heart, my best advice to child sexual abuse victims or any abuse victims, write your story. Not to publish, not to share with anybody, not even in journal form. Write it down in graphic detail, from what the room looked like, or in each situation. But what the smells were, what was going on in the background, what sounds, what song, what radio station was playing, who was talking, what was on the television, what you were wearing, what they were wearing, and what happened. And then read it and reread it and reread it, because we are geared. I want to say geared, but it's actually not. It's actually, we are brainwashed by the abuser. This is a secret. This is our special time. This is our special place. This is our special thing that we do, and you can't tell anybody. And, yeah, maybe you grow up thinking that you can't tell anybody, and maybe you go your entire life without telling anybody, and that's your right and your privilege. But writing it down keeps it from eating at you. It makes it tangible. It makes it true. It makes it proven that it happened. You remember it. This is me. This is my story. That has been the most healing thing for me, is to actually sit there and look at something and say, this was my life. This was my destiny. This is what happened to me. I overcame it. I put it down. It's there and it's real. No matter what anybody says, nobody can take that from me. And I truly believe with all my heart that it helps in the healing. And you know something? Being damaged, we're all damaged by something. Being damaged doesn't mean that you're ruined or you're not whole. You're still useful. You're still functional. There's a scenario in my book, and it actually happened, where I'm describing to my husband that I was damaged goods, and I actually told him, I said, do you remember when Chandler, which is my daughter, was 2 years old, we were doing some renovations around the house. And my older daughter, who's 4 years older, she was 6, was pounding nails